This is Astounding Exploits number 1, Cipher of the Chemist, an Ethan Fowler novel by Doc Runick. Copyright 2017, all rights reserved. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either the product of the author's imagination or used fictitiously. Any resemblance to locales, events, business establishments, or actual persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Chapter 2. Peculiar Visitor. Ethan leaned on his desk as he filled in the report. Around him, a few night officers sorted and tidied the station. Ethan's thoughts kept returning to that woman. He'd encountered no one like her before. He'd seen several beautiful women, but none had entrapped his mind like that. Rubbing the sore spot on his leg from the table, he wondered if he hadn't hit the table, would he have handed her the papers? His mind was so preoccupied with the notes and memories that he jumped as a file folder slapped the desk in front of him. A tall blond man he'd never seen stood before him, looking down his crooked nose at Ethan. The athletic build and snug suit gave the man a look Ethan was sure drew in the ladies, despite the flattened nose and lightly pockmarked face. "The paperwork for the 3 thugs' incarceration. I brought them up for you." Ethan picked the folders up and flipped through them. The folders gave general details. These were local boys that worked at the shipping port. Their rap sheets were mostly local brawls and the occasional gambling bust. Petty-minded thugs. Ethan noted their names, not Irish or Italian as he expected. With a name like Janik Schreiner, Right Lips was clearly of German heritage. Ethan sighed. It was going to be a tough winter if there was a German syndicate trying to move into this neighborhood. He set the folder aside and looked up at the man who hadn't left. "David Singleton," the man volunteered, staring at Ethan. "That's supposed to mean something to me?" David pulled a plain black wallet from his well-tailored wool coat and held it out to Ethan. Taking it, Ethan flipped it open to display credentials complete with a photograph. The name David Singleton was typed under the ornate words, Special Agent. It even had a government seal embossed over official-looking signatures. The right side of the card had the circular seal with the American eagle crowned with 2 stars that read National Park Service, arched over the top, and DOI 8 at the bottom. "National Park Service? Aren't you guys supposed to be out counting bears or something?" "Different department," the man said dryly. "NPS is part of the Department of the Interior. Division 8 deals with protecting and preserving historical integrity and associated historical and natural resources for national security." "National security?" Ethan repeated, not sure about where that put this man in the command chain. Anytime someone said national security, they got to stomp around in their iron boots and take anything they wanted. Flipping the wallet back to Agent Singleton, Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Why would an important person like yourself be looking at small-time thug records?" Agent Singleton snorted. Agreeing he was wasting his time or dismissing Ethan's flippant attitude, Ethan wasn't sure. What did Rollins's goons want? Did she get it? "Who?" Agent Singleton snorted again. This time it was dismissing Ethan as an ignorant fool. Ethan's fists clenched, and he considered how far he'd be demoted for clocking this peacock, further displacing that crooked nose of his. Whatever it was they were after, it was important enough for Her Majesty Alta Laverne Rollins to come for it. She has a habit of acquiring historic national treasures wherever she goes. We were watching her and saw her talking to you in the diner. Green curves, cash, and danger. Whatever else Agent Singleton was, he was dead on the money with that description. Still, Ethan's gut didn't trust this tightly wound cobra any more than that green mamba. "Her Majesty?" Agent Singleton took a deep breath and let it shoot out his crooked nose down at Ethan, the well of information now dry. Agent Singleton stared at Ethan with his penetrating blue eyes. Ethan gazed back, letting the man's rising anger wash around him, no more effective than a light breeze in Central Park. The 6-foot-thick shoulder frame didn't intimidate Ethan either, even though he was at least an inch taller and a few pounds of hard muscle heavier too. Whatever Agent Singleton was after, he wanted it bad. She wanted something from the fat guy. His belongings are down in evidence. "Want me to take you down there?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice colder than the ice on the windows. The man glared for a moment more, and then his eyebrows knitted down. I've already looked. There is nothing there. Looking out the tall precinct windows at the falling snowflakes illuminated by the office's bright lights, he scratched the back of his left ear. The fat man had something. He doesn't have it anymore, but Rollins's goons don't either. Maybe it was something he dropped. Agent Singleton glanced around at the empty span of desks. Your country needs you. Ethan choked down a laugh. The man was serious. The Japanese government is buzzing like an angry hornet's nest. Someone stole the last original Onigawara from Abe no Seimi's shrine. He held up a hand at Ethan's raised eyebrows. It's a kind of Japanese gargoyle about this tall. He held a hand a little over 2 feet over Ethan's desktop. It's one of a set of 2 carved by the master himself. You've heard of him? Of course, Ethan agreed, though he'd done no such thing. Gargoyles were synonymous with demons and magic, so he could hazard a guess that put this Abe no Seimi in the mental column of sorcerers and wizards. You sure you have? The tone one shade lighter than would justify a punch to the nose. You've heard of Merlin, right? Ethan nodded to that easy enough. Well, this guy is said to be the Merlin of Japan, or maybe he was the Merlin after all. That King Arthur stuff was done. You said the last. How many are there, and where are they? This is a set of 4. 1 was destroyed in a war. 2 were in private collections. Both stolen in the last few years, making the one in the Japanese National Monument the last and most precious. You'd think they'd have taken it down and put it in a secure location. What's so important about some old stone carvings? We don't know. There are many rumors and legends of them being able to make men stronger and tougher. Everyone agrees they work together to amplify the effect. And you think this Rollins dame is involved? She returned from Japan, and she's been in every location at the time of the thefts. She's cunning, and believes in ancient mumbo-jumbo. What can I do? Given your reputation, I doubt there is anything we can do to keep you from this case. Instead, I need evidence she has them, if you find one. He reached into a pocket, producing a heavy-looking pocket watch. I have one. Not like this. Singleton rotated the D-shaped wind-up knob. See here, it's a camera. The film advances with a half-turn. The face is fake. The angle of the hands show the view. Take off the crown, press this pin, and presto, 25 pictures. He turned it over and pointed to a minuscule lever on the bottom. Turn this, and the back cover comes off. Back chamber here at the top. 2 pins on the bottom to hold the film. Where'd you get that? It was beautiful. Ethan's fingers itched for the gadget, and before he knew what he'd done, he was holding the thing. I work for the NPS, under the DOI. If you find one of the Onigawara, get a picture. If it has Rollins in it, even better. Then, we can collar her for smuggling and calm the Japanese down. Where's the fat man fit into the picture? Inside, man. His name is Dr. Russell. He's a bookworm. Rollins pulled him out of Clark University's chemistry labs. We don't know why he'd break and run. That doesn't make sense. Why don't you ask him? Singleton's hands clenched into fists as he shook his head. He's in a coma, and the doctors at the hospital are doing that condolences dance they do when they think someone ain't going to pull through. So far, we have nothing we can pin on Rollins or her men. So Ethan wasn't the first person propositioned by Rollins that these government men then tried to recruit. Rollins may even know that's their game. Ethan preferred direct and to the point over the careful infiltration style. Pocketing the watch, Ethan stood. I'll keep a lookout. Chapter 3. Journal, January 10th, 1930. Ethan rubbed his sore leg and pondered the bizarre events of the evening. That green-eyed temptress had almost ensnared him with her charms. He needed to get it all down in his journal before the details faded. Unlocking his desk drawer, he retrieved the worn leather journal and flipped it open to a new page. Chewing on his pen, he recounted the night's happenings. January 10th, 1930. Too many loose ends swirling around this caper. The fat man, Dr. Russell, dying in the hospital without any more clues. Those thugs looking to snatch whatever he slipped me. And that cold-blooded Dame Alta Rollins, trying to mesmerize me into handing it all over with a flash of green and gold. Speaking of mesmerizing, that government spook Singleton reappeared at my desk last night. Tried dazzling me with his fancy camera watch to get me tracking the whereabouts of some ancient Japanese statues for him. Ha! Like I'm gonna be some G-man lackey. Although I'll admit, the watch gadget was slick. Took some snaps of the papers Russell gave me with it. Might come in handy if this hunt takes me deeper down the rabbit hole. Singleton rattled on about sorcerers and amplifying power, but I know it's all circus sideshow smoke and mirrors. This is about money, rare treasures, and secrets, like it always is. Still haven't cracked the code on Russell's scribbled notes, some kind of chemical formula interspersed with gibberish, and an address for a Dr. Villanova at Empire University. The fat man mentioned Villanova with his dying breath. Have to pay the professor a visit, see if he can make heads or tails of this. Also need to hit up my snitches, get the scoop on Rollins' operations. She's clearly the queen bee here, with those thugs and treasure-hunting bees buzzing around her hive. I'll stick close until she leads me to the honey. The chief's not pleased. I lost 3 collars last night. But this case is too hot not to see through myself. The streets are whispering about dark forces moving. If Rollins has stirred something unnatural up, I aim to send it back to hell where it belongs. By fist or firearm, don't much matter to me. Stay frosty, eyes open. This mystery still has some shadows to illuminate. Satisfied, Ethan closed the journal and slid it back into his locked desk. Time to hit the streets again. With any luck, he'd soon have that green-eyed viper behind bars where she belonged. Grabbing his fedora and coat, he strode out into the winter night. The hunt was on.